Welcome back to The Motivated Senior, where we share inspiring stories of resilience, hope, and second chances, stories that remind every senior watching that it's never too late to live fully, love deeply, and keep moving forward. If you're new here, take a moment right now to like this video, hype it so more seniors can find it, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next life-changing story. Now, let's continue Robert's journey. In our last episode, we left him standing at a crossroads, holding on to the last words of his wife in that hospital room, "Don't let our dream die." Their dream was to travel the world, to see beauty before the final curtain fell. Today, we pick up from that moment, Robert, 71, grieving yet determined, about to decide whether to remain trapped in sorrow or honor her memory by stepping into the journey they once dreamed of together. He stood in the living room with the map pinned to the corkboard, Mary's red circle around someday glowing under the lamp. Grief still pressed on his chest, but alongside it pulsed a steady, surprising courage. Robert wrote a short list: oil change, spare tire, first aid kit, thermos, and beneath it, in block letters, keep the promise. He phoned the kids, not to ask permission, but to share his plan. Their concern was love. He received it and stayed the course. He laid Mary's scarf across the passenger seat, a soft benediction. The house felt less like a museum and more like a station. He did not wait for the perfect moment. He chose a date, circled it in blue, and whispered, "I'm going, love." The quiet answered with ordinary sounds: the clock, the fridge, the breath he finally let out. He printed tickets, checked prescriptions, and tucked a small notebook in his jacket. He slid a spare key under the mat and watered Mary's fern. When he turned off the last light, he felt held by the vow. At dawn he drove to the airport, the roads rinsed clean by night rain. The terminal's glass facade mirrored a pale sky, his reflection looked smaller than he remembered, but steady. He moved slowly, not from fear, but from reverence, every checkpoint a threshold, every line a small ceremony. At the counter he asked for a window seat. The agent noticed the scarf folded over his arm and smiled without asking questions. Security trays swallowed his shoes, belt, notebook, and the little tin that held Mary's wedding band. He carried it through like a candle he refused to blow out. At the gate he chose a chair by the window and watched planes rise with the grace of promises kept. He sipped coffee he barely tasted and wrote the date, the flight number, and 3 sentences: "I am afraid. I am ready. I am not alone." When boarding began, he waited until the last group, giving himself a few extra breaths. The aisle felt narrow, strangers' shoulders brushed his coat, a toddler stared at him with frank curiosity and waved. He waved back. Settling into his seat, he laid the scarf across his lap, buckled in, and touched the cool oval of the ring tin. The engine spooled, arising him. As the wheels lifted, the city unscrolled beneath him, roofs, river, roads, until clouds received the plane like a quiet room. He closed his eyes and pictured Mary taking his hand, a memory so clear it felt like presence. He did not speak. He breathed. The vow traveled with him, unshaken by altitude. He breathed. His first stop was Lisbon, the city Mary had circled with a little star because she wanted to hear Father in a small cafe and watch the river turn to silver at dusk. The taxi climbed through steep streets, past tile-clad walls and laundry strung like flags. In a quiet pension near Alfama, Robert set his suitcase down and stood a long moment, listening to the unfamiliar hush that hotels keep. He placed the scarf on the chair by the window, opened the shutters, and let salt air and gull cries step inside. Later he walked without aim, letting the city carry him. Tram bells chimed, cod hung in shop windows, old men argued chess under jacaranda shade. At a corner cafe, he ordered soup and bread and, by habit, 2 spoons. The waiter noticed and brought one. Robert kept it beside the bowl, not as a wound, but as a way of saying we are still here. At dusk he found a small tavern with a guitar strumming behind a curtain. A woman sang with the weight of years and the lift of mercy, her voice braided sorrow and bravery until they were indistinguishable. Robert felt his throat tighten, and for a moment he feared he would break in public. Instead he bowed his head, let 2 clean tears fall, and breathed steady. After the song, the singer passed his table and touched the scarf with a fingertip, a blessing without words. He slept deeply that night, a tide finally turning. In the morning he took the train to Belém, standing on the river wall where caravels once set out. He did not chase youth. He honored passage. He ate a custard tart warm from the oven and wrote to his children, "I am safe. I am grateful. The dream fits in one pair of shoes." On the way back, he bought a postcard, addressed it to his own house, and wrote only this: "Love keeps moving." He rode a tram to a lookout. The river met the horizon and he knew leaving was not betrayal, it was obedience. He traced the next line, Seville, then Florence, then her grandmother's village. Tomorrow would not be empty, it will be a door. On trains between cities he learned to measure time by small rituals, the turn of a page, the slow disappearance of a cookie, the blink of passing mileposts. He kept Mary near by speaking to her in notes, not confessions, more like postcards of the heart. In Seville he sat in a courtyard fragrant with oranges and wrote, "You would have loved the tiles, they are little fields of sky." In Florence he stood before a painting that outlived empires and whispered, "We are briefly here, yet beauty keeps vigil." He found that grief did not fade so much as make room. New sights did not replace the old life, they threaded through it, like light through lace. He laughed with a German couple over a spilled gelato, he shared a bench with a drowsy cat and felt oddly approved. He did not chase perfect days. He welcomed decent ones and let them do their work. At night he sometimes dreamed of Mary boarding beside him, turning to ask if he packed the tickets. He woke with a smile and the answer yes. The world did not heal him quickly. It did, however, keep opening doors, and he kept walking through, a man still learning to use both hands, one to hold memory, one to hold tomorrow. In a marketplace he bought a small tin of tea she once favored and tucked it in his bag like a promise kept. He mailed himself another postcard, simply, "I saw what you wanted me to see." He noticed he was speaking more with strangers, asking questions, letting their stories brush his own. He listened to rivers and felt light. Not every day made sense. In Florence rain pinned him to a pensione room that smelled faintly of lemon and old wood. He set out 2 cups by habit and then put one back, angry at his own hands. In a museum corridor, he reached to point something out and found no one beside him. The ache that followed was not sharp, it was a slow, tiding heaviness, like water rising under a door. He missed an evening train and spent an anxious hour staring at the departure board, letters flipping like indecipherable birds. Once, he woke from a nap certain he had lost the ring tin. He turned the room inside out before finding it in his shoe where he had hidden it for safety. He sat on the edge of the bed and laughed a quiet, shaky laugh that was almost a sob. "Loneliness has strange manners," he wrote, "it knocks even when you leave the lights on." In Seville he caught a cold and learned the price of pushing too hard. A pharmacist spoke to him gently, slower than usual, as if translating care. For 2 days he stayed in, watching the cathedral's shadow move along a wall, eating soup that tasted mostly of patience. On the 3rd day he walked out too soon and had to sit on a low stone step, breath hitching, pride smarting. A nearby street singer switched to a softer song without looking at him, and he felt seen without being named. Messages from home asked if he was safe. He answered with honesty, "It is hard and it is good. I am doing fine. I will keep on." He learned to forgive himself for sitting down, for forgetting directions, for saying the wrong word and smiling anyway. He learned that grief travels light but never empty, it always packs the photograph and the echo. And there were memories that arrived like weather fronts, Mary's laugh at a roadside diner, her way of folding a map like a magician, leaving him warm, then hollow, then warm again. On those nights he kept the lamp on and read a page aloud so the room had a voice. Nothing dramatic happened. He simply suffered, and kept moving. Somewhere between maps and mornings he noticed the balance had shifted. He was no longer traveling only for Mary, he was traveling with her, memory not as anchor, but as wind. In a small Italian town a shopkeeper pressed a slice of peach into his hand and said, "For sweetness." Robert ate it standing in sunlight and felt something inside unclench. He began choosing not the most famous sights, but the ones that made him curious, a tiny chapel painted by a forgotten hand, a park bench with a view of laundry and sky. He asked a stranger to take his picture and did not apologize for wanting proof. In the evenings he read her favorite poem aloud and then added one new stanza of his own, a habit that made space for tomorrow. He realized the promise was not only to move his feet, but to live with attention, to practice joy on purpose. That practice, quiet, stubborn, was changing him. He measured days not by hurt but by what they held. The ache remained, honest as weather, and light stood beside it. At dawn on a quiet shore he set the scarf on a flat rock and watched the horizon brighten. Waves folded and unfolded like hands. Robert opened the tin, touched the ring once, and spoke aloud, "Thank you for the road. I am still going." A gull lifted into the wind as if carrying the words. He did not ask for a sign. He received the day was given, the light, weathered stone, the steadiness in his own breath, and felt the resting place grief had promised all along, not forgetting, but peace. If you are a senior carrying grief, regret, or the ache of long postponement, let Robert's road remind you, dreams do not expire, they wait. Start small, but start, one walk, one call, one plan circled on a calendar. Honor what was by stepping toward what can still be. Life is not done with you. If this story moved you, like this video, hype it so others can find hope, subscribe to The Motivated Senior, and turn on notifications for the next story. Share it with someone who needs courage, today.